When Elon Musk sat across from his son that evening, he had no idea the conversation would change him forever. What started as a casual dinner with Donald Trump turned into something much deeper, something personal. Because when X looked his father in the eye and asked one simple question, it left Musk speechless. The waves crashed gently against the shore as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the sprawling estate Mar-a-Lago. The fortress of power and wealth felt quieter tonight. Inside chandeliers glowed with golden light reflecting off polished marble floors. The world outside buzzed with speculation scandals and the ever-present hum of politics. But tonight, none of that mattered. In a private lounge away from the cameras and the strategist Donald Trump sat across from Elon Musk. It was supposed to be a closed-door meeting, a conversation about the future, AI censorship space, colonization, maybe even the next election, two of the most unpredictable minds on the planet. Sitting face to face, no filters, no interruptions. Except one, a boy sat between them, swinging his feet slightly against the chair. Elon's young son, Xer, A-12. Though most people just called him X, the child, had the piercing blue eyes of his father, a quiet intensity behind them, like he was always calculating, always thinking he wasn't supposed to be here. But Musk, in his usual unpredictable fashion, had brought him along. He wanted to come. Elon had shrugged when Trump's assistant raised an eyebrow, figured it'd be interesting for him. Trump never want to say no to an audience, had laughed. Kids already got better taste than most politicians. Now they sat in an odd triangle, 3 generations, 3 legacies, 3 futures. The conversation started like any other politics. The next election, the economy. Musk talked about AI and automation, about how civilization was heading toward a precipice where decisions needed to be made, we're risk losing control for forever. Trump, always the deal maker, leaned in his voice, dropping lower. So what's the move? Elon, you going to run for something? Or you just pulling strings from the sidelines? Musk smirked. I prefer to build things. Trump gestured vaguely. That's what they said about me before, 2016. A chuckle, a sip of whiskey. The air between them was charged not with hostility, but with the weight of 2 men who had shaped the world in their own ways. But then, the shift happened, the moment neither of them expected. A quiet voice smaller than theirs, but sharp in its simplicity. X tilted his head, looking directly at Trump. "Mr. Trump," he said, his voice clear and unshaken. "Are you afraid of being forgotten?" The room went still. Musk stopped mid-peep, his eyes flicking to his son. Trump's expression froze for just a fraction of a second, so quick that most people wouldn't have noticed. But Musk did. Then, as expected, Trump laughed, that signature Trump laugh, part amusement, part performance. Forgotten kid. I've got my name on buildings from here to Scotland. They'll be talking about me long after we're all gone. X didn't blink. That's not what I mean. Trump leaned back slightly. "Oh yeah, what do you mean?" Then the boy spoke as if he had rehearsed this moment in his head 100 times. Maybe he had. When people talk about you 100 years from now, what will they actually say? Will they just remember your name, or will they remember who you really were? The air changed, not in a dramatic way, not like a courtroom moment or a debate stage knockout. It was quiet, better, heavier. For the first time in the conversation, Trump didn't have an instant response. A flash of something crossed his face. Not fear, not anger. Something deeper. Reflection for a man who had built his entire life on winning, on being larger than life. The question cut through everything. Would the world remember the victories or the controversies? Would they remember him as a leader, a fighter, or James in the history books, surrounded by noise and debate? Musk stayed silent. He wanted to see how Trump would respond. Trump exhaled, tapping his fingers against the table in thought. "Well, kid," he said finally, voice measured, "let me tell you something. The trick isn't making people remember your name. It's making them remember why you mattered." X tilted his head. "And why do you think you matter?" Trump's fingers stopped tapping his eyes, met the boys. And for the first time all night, he didn't have an answer right away. Musk watched intrigued. He had seen Trump talk himself out of impossible situations, outmaneuver entire governments, crush political rivals with a single sentence. But now Trump was thinking, not performing, not defending, thinking. And that was when Musk knew this conversation wasn't over, it was just beginning. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the ocean outside. The waves rolled against the shore, rhythmic and unbothered by the weight of the question that now hung between them. Trump, always quick on his feet, always in control of the narrative, was staring at the boy. Musk didn't intervene. He knew his son knew how his mind worked. X wasn't asking to be rude or to challenge Trump for the sake of it. He asked because he genuinely wanted to know, because he had been thinking about this for a long time. Trump leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. His expression shifted. No longer the casual, joking tone he wore in public. "I've built things," he said finally. His voice was lower, now less performance, more personal, more than most men never will. Towers, hotels, casinos, golf courses, a presidency, you name it. X nodded, and when those things are gone, Musk almost smirked. His son didn't waste words. He got to the point. Trump exhaled, "They won't be gone. My name is on them." Tilted his head, but names fade. Musk could see at the smallest flicker in Trump's eyes. He wasn't wrong. Time erodes everything. Buildings crumble. Businesses change hands. Even countries rewrite their own histories. What lasts? Trump tapped his fingers on the table again, a steady rhythmic sound. Then, in a measured tone, he said, "It's not just about what you build. It's about how you make people feel." Musk raised an eyebrow. That was unexpected. Trump continued, "You think people remember George Washington just because his name is on a dollar bill number. They remember how he made them feel. They remember the fight, the leadership, the way he changed things." X listened intently, absorbing every word. "So what did you change?" Another beat. Of silence, Musk's gaze flickered toward Trump. He was waiting too. Trump exhaled through his nose. "I woke people up." X furrowed his brow slightly. "I made people realize that power isn't just for the elite." Trump said, his voice firmer, now that they don't have to listen to what some journalist or some politician tells them that they can fight. Muse could tell that this was the real answer. Not just words, but the core of how Trump saw himself. Trump leaned back slightly, watching X carefully. "You ask if I'm afraid of being forgotten. I'm not, because I know one thing. I made them listen." X sat quietly for a moment, thinking. Then, in that same calm, unshaken voice, he said, "But being remembered isn't the same as being understood." Trump stilled. Musk saw it immediately, that rare moment when Trump wasn't sure if he was being challenged or if he was being given something to actually think about. The room felt heavier now. The conversation had shifted into something more than just a passing discussion. Musk finally spoke. "You Chang things," he said, nodding slightly, "but do you think they'll remember the right things?" Trump narrowed his eyes slightly, but there was no anger. If anything, there was consideration. The weight of that question wasn't just about him, it was about every leader who had ever tried to shape the world. Every empire that had risen and fallen. What does history actually remember? What part of you does it keep? Trump exhaled, rubbing his fingers together. He glanced at Musk. "You ever wonder about that, Musk?" Shrugged all the time. A smirk twitched at the corner of Trump's mouth. He gestured toward X. "He gets it from you." "Doesn't he?" Musk smiled faintly. "No, he gets it from himself." Trump looked back at X. "All right, kid, since you're so full of questions, let me ask you. One." XCT blinked, but nodded. Trump steepled his fingers. "What do you think matters most? What's the thing that makes a man truly remembered?" X thought for a long moment. Then he answered, and what he said left both men in silence. The ocean air carried the faint sound of waves crashing against the shore. The candlelight flickered on the table between them, casting long shadows. Trump had asked the question, what makes a man truly remembered? And now everyone was waiting for X's answer. The boy sat quietly for a moment, his fingers idly tracing the condensation on his glass. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't rushing. Finally, he looked up. It's not power, X said, simply not money. Not even the fight tilted his head slightly, intrigued. X continued, it's the way you change the people closest to you. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Musk let out a small chuckle, shaking his head. That's actually profound. Trump, however, wasn't smiling. He was studying the boy, his face unreadable. Explain. X leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on the table. You talk about waking people up, about making them listen. That's big. But history isn't just made by big moments. It's made by small ones, too. Trump narrowed his eyes. Go on. X took a breath. Most people don't remember the names of kings. They don't remember the exact words of speeches. They remember how those leaders changed their parents, their families. They remember what those people became because of the world they lived in. Trump exhaled through his nose. X continued. You say people will remember you because you made them listen. But what if they remember the anger more than the message? What if they remember the fight but not why you fought? Musk leaned back slightly, impressed. Trump was silent, and then in a voice lower than before, he said, so, you think I failed? X shook his head. I think you changed the world. A pause. But I don't think you get to choose how history writes. Trump's expression flickered. Musk could tell the words had hit somewhere deeper than Trump was willing to admit. Trump tapped his fingers against the table. Again, his signature thinking gesture. Then, after a long moment, he asked, and what about your father? X blinked. Trump gestured toward Musk. You said people remember how a leader changes the people closest to them, so tell me, how did he change you? Musk arched an eyebrow but remained silent. X glanced at his father, then back at Trump. Then, with complete honesty, he answered, he taught me that even the smartest man in the world can still be wrong. Musk smirked slightly. I'm assuming that's a compliment. X shrugged. It means you're not afraid to fail, and that's why people believe in you. Trump exhaled, shaking his head with something between amusement and deep thought. That's an interesting answer. Kid X nodded, because it's true. Another pause, then Trump looked back at Musk. You're raising a thinker, he muttered. Musk chuckled. Wouldn't have it any other way. The conversation should have lightened then, but it didn't. Because something had changed, the words still hung in the air. History doesn't always remember the reasons, just the impact. Trump suddenly turned serious again. He leaned in, so tell X, do you think you'll be remembered? X held his gaze, his face calm. I don't care if I am, he said. Trump arched an eyebrow. Why? X's answer came without hesitation. Because the people I love will remember me. And that's enough. Silence for the first time all evening. Trump had no immediate response. Musk folded his arms. Now, that's an answer. Trump exhaled slowly. He glanced down at the table, rubbing his fingers together in thought. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he admitted something neither Musk nor X expected to hear. I don't know if that's enough for me. Musk sat up slightly. X frowned. Trump looked away for just a second, as if considering whether he should have said that out loud, but the words were already there. Raw, honest, vulnerable Musk had known Trump for years, but this was different. And before anyone could say another word, Trump looked up, his eyes sharper now. But I do know one thing. Musk and X waited. Trump smirked slightly. I like you, kid. X smiled faint. I know. Musk chuckled. Took you long enough to admit it. Trump leaned back, shaking his head. And for the first time that Naya looked at the ocean, not the past. The waves crashed rhythmically against the shore, filling the silence that had fallen over the table. The air smelled of salt and night thick with something unspoken. For the first time, Trump didn't have an answer. Musk noticed it. Immediately, he had seen Trump in countless debates and business deals on the global stage, always with a comeback, always with a retort, always ready to win the conversation. But now he was just thinking. Seki, X wasn't watching the ocean. He wasn't even looking at Musk. He was watching Trump. You don't know if it's enough. Finally said, breaking the quiet. Trump exhaled sharply through his nose, glancing at the table. I don't like losing, and I don't like being forgotten. Musk smirked slightly. You won't be forgotten. Trump's expression remained unreadable. X tilted his head. Is that why you fight so much? Trump's gaze snapped back up to him. X continued, because if you stop fighting, you feel like you'll disappear. Musk arched an eyebrow. Trump studied the boy for a moment, his finger tapping lightly against the wooden surface. Then, with a dry chuckle, he muttered, You ask a lot of damn good questions for a kid. X shrugged. Someone has to. Trump let out a breath. Sitting back, he glanced at Musk. He get this from you. Musk smiled faintly, partially then. After a pause, he added, partially? Not. Trump smirked. That's an interesting way to say, you don't have all the answers. Musk chuckled. Nobody does. X leaned forward slightly, but you never answered my question. Trump's smile faded just a bit. Which one? X didn't hesitate. What are you afraid of? Silence. Musk sat up slightly, genuinely curious. Now he wanted to hear the answer too. Trump tapped his fingers against the table. His signature move. When he was thinking he could have dodged the question, he could have turned it into a joke, dismissed it, brushed it off like he had done 1,000 times before. But for some reason, he didn't. Instead, he let the words sit there. Then, softly, he said, becoming small. Musk blinked. X furrowed his brow. What do you mean? Trump exhaled slowly. He didn't look at either of them when he answered, I've built, I've fought. I've been on the biggest stage in the world. His voice was measured steady. When you've done that. You know what the worst thing is? X waited. Trump finally looked up, feeling like none of it mattered. Musk exhaled, rubbing his jaw. He understood that feeling. He had spent his life building impossible things, pushing humanity forward, making history. But deep down in the quiet moments, he had wondered the same thing. Would it matter in the end? Would the world actually change? X's face remained unreadable. He let the words settle. Then, after a long pause, he said, Then maybe you're asking the wrong question. Trump raised an eyebrow. What? X leaned forward slightly. Instead of asking if the world will remember you, why not ask if the people closest to you will? Trump went. Still. Musk narrowed his eyes, watching. X continued. Because the world is big. The world forgets things fast. But the people who know you best, they remember who you really were. Trump's fingers stopped tapping. X's voice softened just slightly. And if they don't remember you the way you want, maybe that's the part that really scares you. Silence for the first time all evening. Trump had nothing to say. Musk glanced at him, noting the way his expression had changed. Then X leaned back, folded his arms, and smiled, slight. Checkmate. Musk burst out laughing. Trump blinked, caught off guard. After a moment, he laughed too. It wasn't the loud performative laugh he did at rallies. It wasn't the smug chuck he gave in interviews. It was real. It was genuine. He shook his head, still chuckling. Kid, I got to admit, I didn't see that one coming. X grinned. That's the best kind of checkmate. Musk smirked. Now, you know what it feels like. Trump let out a breath, shaking his head. You're really raising a chess master here. Musk shrugged. I just let him think." Trump's smile lingered for a moment. Then he exhaled and glanced back at the ocean. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about winning, he was just thinking. And as the waves crashed, something shifted, because even though the world would always be watching Donald Trump for the first time in years, he wondered if he had been watching it the wrong way. The waves continued their relentless assault on the shore, the rhythmic crash filling the silence that had fallen over the table. The laughter had faded, but something lingered in the air, something unspoken, something neither man had been expecting to feel. Trump leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. He wasn't used to moments like this, real moments. Most conversations in his life were a battle of infar. Me too, just a different kind. Musk chuckled. "Yes, but you just lost this round." Trump scoffed, but it wasn't his usual dismissive wave. He liked this kid. He liked the way he thought, sharp, unpredictable, dangerous in the best way. Then X's expression shifted, more serious now, more deliberate. And suddenly, the balance of the conversation shifted again. "I have another question," X said. Musk's smirk faded slightly. He knew this look. Trump raised an eyebrow. Intrigued, "Go on." And X looked at Musk, then back at Trump. Then slowly, he asked, "What's the biggest mistake you ever made?" The wind carried the question into the night. Musk inhaled through his nose, rubbing his jaw. He could already feel where this was going. Trump, however, didn't react immediately. The people Trump pushed away, the people who might have been right. Trump leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. He studied X carefully. "What are you really asking?" Met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm asking if you ever walked away from someone you shouldn't have." Musk blinked. Trump's jaw tightened slightly because this was different. This wasn't about losing a deal. This wasn't about power or politics. This was personal. And for the first time, Trump didn't have an answer ready. The waves crashed. The wind carried the tension between them. Then, after what felt like forever, Trump exhaled through his nose. "Yeah," X nodded. Who Trump hesitated. His expression flickered just for a second. And then quietly, he said, "Someone I should have fought harder for." Musk sat up slightly. X waited, but Trump didn't elaborate. Instead, he simply leaned back in his chair, looking out at the ocean. He wasn't going to say who, and maybe that was the real answer X didn't push. Instead, he just nodded, because sometimes the silence tells you everything. Trump let out of breath, shaking his head. "All right, kid, you're better at this than some reporters I've dealt with." X smirked. "They don't ask the right questions." Trump chuckled. Clearly, Musk finally broke the tension. "All right, I think we need drinks after that conversation." Trump grinned. "You're not wrong." As the staff inside moved to prepare the drinks, the three of them sat there. Trump, Musk, and the boy who had just made them both think. And for the first time all evening, nobody spoke, because for the first time in a long time, both men had something to think about. The sky had darkened, the distant stars now speckling the horizon as the ocean whispered against the cliffs below. The conversation had slowed, but its weight still hung in the air. Trump leaned back, his usual sharp bravado softened by something quieter, something heavier. Elon Musk sipped his drink, his fingers idly tracing the rim of the glass. Had turned the tide of the conversation in a way neither man had expected, and now it was his turn. X turned toward his father. Studying him, he had spent his entire life watching Musk command rooms filled with the brightest minds in the world, debating artificial intelligence space, colonization, and the future of civilization itself. But tonight, in this moment, X didn't care about any of that. He cared about the man. And so, just as he had done with Trump, he asked, "Dad, what's your biggest regret?" Musk's fingers froze against his glass. Trump sat up slightly, watching with intrigue. Musk wasn't the type to dwell on the past. He always looked forward toward the next, innovation, the next launch, the next problem to solve. But this wasn't about rockets or AI. This was about him. Musk exhaled through his nose. That's a broad question, tilted his head. So is yours? A small smirk tugged at Trump's lips. He liked this kid sharp. Relentless just like him. Musk set his drink down, running a hand through his hair. He knew he had to answer. Avoiding it would only make X press harder. So he spoke. I think Musk started slowly, his voice quieter than before. I think my biggest regret is how much I've missed. X blinked, missed. Musk nodded. Looking down at his hands I was so focused on, building things, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, that I didn't realize how much I was losing in the process. X sat up straighter. Now he was listening. Trump leaned in slightly. Interested, Muse continued. I missed birthdays. I missed first words, first steps. I missed moments that I'll never get back. X's face was unreadable. Trump, however, understood exactly what Musk was saying because he had lived it too. Musk exhaled, shaking his head. I always told myself it was worth it, that I was doing something bigger than myself, that one day my kids would understand that when they looked at Mars, at the future I helped build, they'd be proud. X was silent. Musk turned to him, meeting his gaze. But the truth is, X, I don't know if that was the right choice. X swallowed. Would you do it differently? Musk hesitated. Would he? Would he trade SpaceX for time? Would he trade Tesla for memories? He thought about the late nights in the factory, the hours spent debugging the years of sleeping on couches instead of being home. Then he thought about X's childhood. What had he missed? Musk's voice dropped lower. I don't know. X nodded, as if he understood something that Musk himself wasn't ready to admit. Trump finally spoke. Let me tell you something about regrets. Musk and X both looked at him. Trump leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. You can spend your whole life thinking about what you should have done differently, about what you missed, about what you lost. But the truth is, he exhaled. You can't change it. All you can do is decide what you're going to do now. Musk stared at him. X did too, because the simplicity of it hit harder than either of them expected. Musk inhaled deeply. He knew this. Of course he knew this. He had built his entire life on moving forward. But when it came to family, when it came to his own son sitting across from him, it didn't feel that simple. X broke the silence. So what are you going to do? Musk blinked. What? X sat back. You said you regret missing things. So what are you going to do about it? Musk exhaled, rubbing his temple. You're not going to let this go, are you? X smirked. Nope. Trump grinned. He liked this kid more and more. Musk chuckled under his breath. His son was relentless. And maybe that was a good thing. Musk leaned forward, locking eyes with X. All right, you win, he said. I'll take a step back. I'll make more time. X raised an eyebrow. For real? Musk nodded. For real. X narrowed his eyes, skeptical. Promise? Musk held out his hand. Promise. X shook it, but then smirked. You're going to have to delete some emails, you know? Musk groaned. Now, you're pushing it. Trump laughed, shaking his head. Kids got you. Musk sighed dramatically. Yeah, he does. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't mind. Because in that moment, Elon Musk realized something. The future wasn't just Mars. It was sitting right in front of him.